Hey gang! I've been ordered to start this video off with a super cool message from the Ghoul City Legal Department. The following family-friendly talking dog comedy film we are about to discuss deals with some pretty heavy subject matter, particularly the morally unjustifiable act of murdering the President of the United States of America. Something that nobody should ever do. The following video will contain many goofs, gaffes, and gutbusters from myself, but I'd like to make it clear to any intelligence agencies watching this video that I condemn the act of murdering a politician. I think if someone did that, that would suck, and they shouldn't have done it. And if I heard that a politician was murdered, I would be pissed off. Now that I'm legally in the clear, please enjoy my analysis of 2003's How I Saved the President. Unbeknownst to me until recently, not all movies are violent, sadistic pervert films about knife rape. In fact, many movies are made for more general audiences and feature much more light-hearted stories than that of Sallow, Come and See, Dominion, or Cannibal Holocaust. Instead of torture and murder, these movies feature hijinks and fun. In theory. See, somewhere along the way, American life went from this idealistic painting they used to sell 7-Up to a much more vulgar and realistic portrayal. People started saying swear words, shit like aw strawberries and fuck became more popular than amen and hallelujah. And suddenly it was bad to substitute baby food with lead-based paint. But not everyone was willing to watch Bart Simpson say damn on TV without a fight. One brave, rotund man decided to start a studio. That studio is the Utah-based Feature Films for Families, a Mormon movie studio. According to their founder, the studio was conceived to finally put a stop to the rude and crude dudes of Hollywood that had become so abundant in decades past. They wanted films that could not only be enjoyed by the whole family, but also could be used to teach valuable lessons and enrich the lives of all who watched. But amidst their mission, they hit many potholes. Namely that their movies suck ass, but also the multiple times they were sued by the Federal Trade Commission and Verizon for placing over 117 million spam calls to people on the Do Not Call registry, and posing as made-up charities to offload their DVDs and keep at least 93% of the profits. While the US government and Verizon Wireless didn't seem to appreciate Feature Films for Families' efforts to save the purity of the country, it did pose an interesting moral question. Is it worth it to make hundreds of millions of fraudulent cold calls to roughly 1/3 of all Americans if the films you're putting out could be vital to national security? That's the question I've decided that their 1996 film How I Saved the President was retroactively asking. How I Saved the President is a childish slapstick comedy / political thriller about a kid who can talk to animals, trying to convince the people around him that his dog told him foreigners with guns
Foreign guys.
Foreign guys.
Yeah, not American with accents.
are plotting to kill the president without either getting arrested himself or getting put on schizophrenia medications such as cariprazanine, aripiprazole, K-tiapine. It's a bit messy of a plot if I'm being honest. I know, hold your shock. It follows a 9-year-old boy named Max, his dog, Spot, Rufus, dog, Bo. Yeah, Bo. What's more fucked up, naming your dog after your vice president's dead son or naming your formerly alive son Bo in the first place? Max can talk to Bo and also his cat, what was his cat?
6 hours later.
Spoople, Nelly. He can talk to them, much to the reasonable concern of his parents and those around him who believe he's mentally fucked in the head, and they're praying that one of these days, Max doesn't start murdering everyone because Bo told me the combination to Dad's gun safe. Speaking of untold carnage and murder, the president is in town, and that attracts the attention of foreigners with guns who take refuge in dark theaters to plot out devilish deeds. And by dark theaters, I actually mean the dog park to take their dog for a walk. Why do they have a dog? Is this dog complicit in the assassination attempt? Is this supposed to be part of their plans? Are they mapping something out? Because at the end of the movie, they try to kill the president inside a building. What was any of this? I'm lost. Max finds out from his dog, who talked to the assassin's dog, that the president is in danger, but obviously no one believes him, because why would they? They'd be stupid too. Now here's where I gotta get into the issues I have with this movie as a teaching tool. I know from the back of the box that this is supposed to be a film that teaches the viewers to always do the right thing, even if it's hard. But that message gets really dangerous really fast. So when nobody believes Max, he decides to recruit his neighbor Buzzy, that's not a real name, you fucking idiot, to go back to the park and attempt to get more evidence that there's an assassination in the works. Yeah, kids, if you encounter criminals with murderous intent and the police don't want to help you, which they won't, by the way, the movie's both correct and based for that one. The only way it would be more accurate is if the police shot Bo. If you encounter criminals with murderous intent and nobody believes you, go and try to stop it yourself. Piss them off even further and see what happens. Look, if this were just a movie, yeah, awesome. Nothing wrong with children fighting violent adults with murder on their mind, but like, Home Alone doesn't exist on the basis that it's a learning experience that comes with discussion questions. Plus, kids can't talk to dogs. Jan from NBC's The Office takes an assignment she's not happy with because her job requires it. What have you done that you didn't want to do, but did anyway because you knew it was right? Wipe. Max and his pals are honored as heroes. What did your heroes do to earn your respect? Not wipe. Even though no one believes him, Max tries to stop the assassination. How can standing up for what you believe in make a difference? Well... Jan from NBC's The Office jumps in front of the president to save him. What can you do to help protect your family? Well, I need to remember to turn off the gas stove when I'm done using it so that Grandpa doesn't die again. I think my biggest complaint is that these bullies that are briefly shown in the beginning aren't just the main characters instead. They only show up for a few minutes, but they stole the show. I mean, imagine a film with these rough customers stumbling upon the same scheme and how much they could do with that premise. Max is kind of a boring character because the only problem he has is undiagnosed paranoid schizophrenia. But otherwise, he's a good kid who lives in a big house with rich parents and Jan from NBC's The Office driving him around as hired security. Switch him out with some bullies who perhaps have a rougher life, bad parents, live in a worse neighborhood, and they've always been looked down on. You got a pretty good premise and for an interesting and thought-provoking film. These guys, they're just a bunch of slacker deadbeats, just like their parents, and they'll end up at the same factory too. But then they end up in a position where they're the only ones who can save the president, and no one believes them because they're just punk-ass kids. Maybe their parents hate the president and don't care if that happens. Why should they try to risk themselves for a country that has never shown it's cared about them? Obviously, films for families would never acknowledge that lower income families exist or write interesting, dynamic characters, but even still, if we were to keep it more simplistic and child-friendly, you could still tell an inspirational redemption story with these characters using their bullying skills for good to thwart an assassination and proving that they're not just like their old man. You could have them doing wicked skateboard chase scenes and shooting the assassins with slingshots. It'd be awesome. Speaking of the bullies who show up for like 1 minute, a lot of stuff in this movie just kind of happens and is never acknowledged again. For instance, the bullies. Max and Buzzy arrive at school and start getting chased through the halls, and you can tell by their expressions that if they get caught, they will absolutely be made to bite the curb. This one is a little bit more reasonable though, because it establishes that Jan from NBC's The Office is cool and has the kids back. But this scene later where Max and Bo almost ride their bike into the back of a car is just...
A dog with an accent?
Watch out, back truck!
Like, what the hell? Why would you get my hopes up? Do you think I don't want to see a small child ride into the back of a car at full speed? Why would you write that check if you had no intentions of cashing it? The entire character of Buzzy is also pretty pointless. After they get in trouble for going back to the murder park, Max's parents tells them to stop hanging out for a while, so they do. There's no sneaking out at night to reconvene and keep working the case. She's just not in the movie anymore. Okay, so fighting violent foreigners with guns, A-okay. Sneaking out at night? No, too far. I think the best message that the movie imparts on its audience is that cooperation with law enforcement of any level should never be considered as a valid option. When Max writes to the FBI or the CIA or Papa Murphy's or whatever, they not only aren't helpful, but investigate him and his family instead. They were gonna silence him. Probably because all these guys are actually CIA assets. The CIA actually has a pretty long history of killing the president, so if my theory on this movie is correct, based. Speaking of whatever, I know it's unreasonable to expect a real-life dog and cat to be able to emote and convey relevant emotions in a live-action film, but the drama and intensity of a scene really isn't sold by these happy-ass dogs. The president is in danger and you're happy as a bitch. To be fair though, I don't think a dog would care about the president's life. Like, would a dog even know who the president is? What has the president ever done for a dog? Much less a cat. That's the most unrealistic part of this whole movie. Not even being able to speak to animals, just the premise that a cat would be at all helpful. My cat wouldn't even care if I was in danger. Much less the leader of the free world. Like, what? And obviously, I'm not saying there's ever any good reason to assassinate a politician. That's definitely not an opinion I hold. But why are they trying to kill him? Is there a war going on? Are they trying to impress Jodie Foster? Do they work for the CIA? Why? What's happening in this world? But I think the biggest problem with this movie is the energy. It's absolutely jouissanceless, devoid of jouissance.
It needs jouissance!
The shot composition is so uninspired and boring. The acting is...
Good boy, good dog. How was your day? I know we play games, but murder's no fun. And animals can't really talk to kids.
Well, I didn't say I wouldn't do it.
The music is... Yeah, it sure is. Nice fucking trombone, you hacks. I'd rather listen to ska than this. I actually like ska. And that's if a scene even has music. Some just don't.
What? Oh.
Max Anderson? Hold it right there, son.
I mean, the silence does make the scenes a lot more awkward, which does make it funnier, but I don't know if that's really what they were going for. At the climax of the movie, Nellie pounces on the sniper and Bo jumps in front of a bullet fired from this guy's wimpy bitch-ass gun. This is where the movie finally just gets stupid. Bo takes that bullet point blank like a... He is... And he's fine 1 month later. If that gun couldn't kill this little ass dog at point blank, the president wasn't even in danger. You know what? Let's consult a gun expert on this scene.
The fuck is this shit?
This is Fraud Department, keeper of guns and artillery in his home. Today we're going to show him the guns of How I Saved the President and get his take on the scenes.
Where the bullets would go? I don't even see where you could put bullets in this thing because the top of the gun, it doesn't look like there's an opening big enough where you could put bullets. There's a scope on it. Earlier I did not see anywhere to actually attach a scope, so, and you don't see him putting it on, so my only thought is they just kind of stuck it on there after the fact. And one last thing, I saw earlier that it's a vented barrel. You would typically see a vented barrel on some kind of fully automatic weapon in a submachine gun design, but the idea of the vented barrel is to have heat escaping so it doesn't overheat as much. In terms of a bolt action rifle, you would have no reason to do that. Derringer, classic kind of pistol, but in terms of using it to I don't know where he is in relation to the president in this scene, but using this kind of gun to assassinate somebody at this range would you're a fucking idiot.
No way, buddy!
Pause. Oh yeah, that dog is fucked. Like, again, that's the kind of, maybe not touching the guy necessarily, but point blank range is the ideal range of a Derringer. The barrels, they looked big enough. This could be a 45. That dog would get eviscerated at this range with this thing, even with the short barrel and stuff. That dog is fucking done. Probably very unrealistic that that dog would survive and this kid would be having a good time at the end of this movie. His dog companion that he's bonded with, his guts would just be eviscerated. That dog would be dead as shit.
Can't take this anymore. Do you want to run away with me?
Sorry, I'm staying with Max.
Too bad. You're kinda cute. Au revoir.
That is rape. You can't fuck that lad, dog.
So overall, was this caliber of film worth being sued for over $45 million by the FTC for making hundreds of millions of spam calls? Yeah, because that's really funny. How I Saved the President might be totally useless as an educational experience and not particularly entertaining as a movie either, but... Actually, no, that's it. Kids, and I know you're watching, kids, don't follow the messages of this movie. Not that anyone besides me has ever watched this movie in the last 20 years. If you follow this movie and try to personally thwart an assassination, you're just going to die. Because they're not going to be packing a Derringer, they're going to be smoking on that Fed pack.
I don't have just random DVD, except I do actually have DVDs we bought back in the GDC days at Rasputin and stuff. I have purposely bad movies, how I Saved the President, all the buttercream shit.
And there's some movies